Hello everyone, Simon here from the Wells of Wall Street. XinFin XDC, one of our favourite projects, are probably actually, I would say maybe, potentially our biggest bag in our portfolio. Maybe second actually. For me personally, I think it's the second. I know Steve does well with XDC as well. But guys, check out our intro video to why we think XinFin XDC is going to be an absolute powerhouse in the years to come. Yes, the price point does not reflect the power, the magnitude, and the opportunity that arises in the future. But this very much is something I feel is under the radar still, that can very much operate for both public and private blockchain sectors financially and many other different areas and industries as well. A few things we want to talk about before we go into the chart. I thought it was quite interesting how to set up a private blockchain network with XDC network code base. What I'm seeing this year so far from XinFin, and this is basically a point that was made so many times last year, and I did reiterate that XDC is not a scam. It doesn't talk much with the general public because it's for institutional level. But when the time arises and when it starts opening up more public domains and public opportunities, I'm sure they will indeed indulge in communicating with us peasants more often. So here we are. This is obviously about private blockchain, but it's very nice to see articles like this, given the opportunity for people to understand the network a bit more, the nodes, the information that is needed and required to utilize a project such as, or a blockchain solutions such as XDC XinFin to create a private network for themselves. So really, really cool. I'm not going to lie, I haven't a clue what 99% of this stuff says. It's all coding. Do you know what this reminds me of? When I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I had Windows 3.0, and it was mostly DOS, and that's all I remember, having to type in C dot dash dot whatever to make a game or a floppy disk work. But then when you go scrolling down further and further, I haven't a clue. So for those out there that like coding and development, fill your boots. I'm sure this makes much more sense to you than it does to me. But the point being is that it's now open to how to do it with great instructions, great information. XinFin have obviously promoted this as well because they posted it on their social media. Can you believe it? Also talking about XD POS in terms of the staking aspects, the Web3. This is the thing, like, I'm trying to invest in as many Web3 based projects as possible, and XDC is definitely one of them. And it's just so early, in my opinion, and the sheer magnitude that's possible. We talk about XDC all the time, and its partnerships, what it's doing with things like Helvetia using Corda nodes, things like the Digital Pound Foundation, all of these things like across the world as well, similar to the Digital Pound Foundation. And that's just talking about CBDCs and banking. Wait till they start opening up all the other aspects of what they're capable of doing, and the transactional speeds, the cost, the efficiency, absolutely incredible. Way ahead, and all of those things, including things like smart contracts and all these things like Ripple and Stellar. Those two are fantastic. They've been around the blocks a long time, and they will all have their moment to shine, in my opinion, for sure. But I was really interested in this little article. I like I said, I haven't a clue what the coding meant, but I understood and appreciated. This is a really cool thing to bring out to the open. And we're talking here on the February 9th. This came out from the XDC Foundation Communications, XDC Observatory. This is allowing people to basically hop in and be able to see what the network's doing in terms of the addresses, the blocks, the creation of transactions, things like this, including some development tools here to improve the XDC Pay, which is pretty terrible at the moment, to be honest, but it is new. I'm really looking forward to seeing that improve magnificently, because I would like to start trying to obtain staking application and aspects of XDC moving forward. But they talk here a lot about partners and exchanges more and more coming to fruition, utilizing XDC or indeed listing XDC, which is fantastic to see. Build it on XDC. Really cool little hashtag there, and I think we're going to see that more and more as time goes by, especially this year. But one of the other key aspects here was GlobalID. Now, GlobalID, I don't think it's just used with XDC as well, but there's loads of other different ones. But for this particular conversation is the fact that these guys will be using or helping make sure the XDC network is safe, but utilizing with blockchain as a whole, and as XDC being seen as kind of like a layer 2 system, if you like, in some aspects. GlobalID is basically allowing you to create a digital identity, a decentralized digital identity, by the way. This means that it's something that you control, that you can manage, that you can decide who can buy or sell your data with your permission. But more importantly as well, as DIDs improve over the next couple of years, bio passports, the way we identify ourselves basically from that physical card and passports and stuff to more of a digital perspective, utilizing blockchain for things like KYC, verification, traceability, all these great things that will come and help improve the economy, speed up processes, things like this. And more importantly, from my perspective, is making those that were unbankable for whatever reason be able to be bankable, to have an identity. Can you imagine? I can't imagine what it must be like somewhere in the world. There's people that have a hard living, working hard, whatever it may be, but they can't get a bank account because of the country that they're in or whatever the reason is. This is given the opportunity for a decentralized system they could use around the world for anything and become part of society where they weren't able to be before. What I mean by that is being included in a system decentralized as well, meaning, as I said, power to the people. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about blockchain and crypto. Yeah, of course I want to make money, but I'm loving not some of the aspects of it, but certainly these kind of decentralized aspects of bringing people equality, for sure, is something that I really believe in massively. So that's really cool. And there's another reiterated information piece here. So they're talking about XDC as a layer 1. There's multiple layers that XDC is capable of doing by the looks of things anyway. So, but yeah, very much around identity, security, all these things that are very important, big topics around the world right now. And even from a private corporate scale, of course, security is even more of a big issue. XDC has for a couple of years now been very at the forefront and open about how it can secure people's networks and utilize blockchain in a safe, secure way. That's what companies want to hear, right? So there's loads of really cool stuff going on at the moment. Again, some more exchange listings using XDC for sure, and being able to, I think these two actually are backed by silver and gold. Allocated physical gold and silver-backed tokens. So very cool to see that Kinesis will first list the XDC and XRC 20 tokens on the Kinesis exchange, providing XDC holders the ability to trade against precious metals. Pretty cool. So yeah, loads of things going on in the last couple of weeks. So it looks like, for me personally, observation wise, XDC are doing a better job than they were last year of communicating with people. And I do love the different bits of knowledge, the different levels of communication coming out right now for different areas and industries. So we can't complain really. I think we saw a partial roadmap. I think we're still waiting for the official one to come out, if I remember from the last video we did. So we'll keep an eye on that. Or indeed, maybe if it is out, I can't remember if we read it. So many things go on in my week. We will indeed go through that in more detail in the next video for those that want to have an interest in that. Guys, let's just jump into the chart. Do smash that like button if you like what you hear and see, and do subscribe as well. What are we looking at with XDC right now? Let me just pull this across slightly without moving it too much. There we go. I should probably do a little macro one as well. I'll do it for here for now. I'll do it properly maybe for the next video. But look at that. Interesting moves for XDC. So look at this gap here. This is really interesting. So if you were to draw like a virtual trend line that we did before, you see this orange line. Look at that massive gap uptake. And obviously it dragged it back down. We had leveraging failures on a number of assets around this time on the 21st of January. Covered that in an MTV video earlier actually as well. It's very repeated patterns that we're seeing across multitude of charts. However, one thing that stays and remains, XDC seems recently, or certainly this year, quite, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it opposite. I think that's a bit too far-fetched to comment, but it seems to be doing its own thing, but still in like this bear mode. I always just feel like XDC is always undervaluing itself. People are asking like, what's XinFin going to do about the price? And I'm like, what do you mean what's XinFin going to do about the price? Like, what do you mean by they're not going to sit there and go, oh, we must appease our retail investors, like by driving nonsense media out constantly, maybe fake news or something to boost prices up. This is just a golden opportunity to accumulate as much XDC as possible. I've been dollar cost averaging this thing up and down. I love it. I want to get to 100,000 hopefully this year. My next target at the moment is 50,000. That might not sound much to many people out there. You might have loads more than I do, but for me, I'd be pretty happy with that. You could argue I was late possibly to the Stellar and XRP party. I was getting an XLM pretty much around the prices that we see now, to be honest. Low regions maybe 12 cents, and XRP, to be fair, I think I was getting around 15, 17 cents. So we've had a good run on that one, but imagine XDC going to those prices, and I'm confident that it will do. I mean, the market cap would suggest that it's possible, and reflected periods of supply and demand and volume, etc. I feel like I'm being patient with it. Once they switch the CBDCs on and the big privatized commercial partnership stuff, I think we're going to see some really good returns on XDC for sure. That's why I want to accumulate as much of it as possible. But here we are with XDC right now. Where are we going with this? Well, look at that. It's touched back on the top region of our buy point that we were looking at in our previous videos when we did the dollar cost averaging coming down. So very interesting to see it literally bang on there. And I probably need to check my KuCoin. It probably means we've just literally purchased the bag today. We've got our lower regions still. I repeated this pattern because I knew that we'd come up like we did with other charts as well, and probably come back down to test these areas again because there's so limited data across the board, especially at these regions. We're looking way back here. Unfortunately, data on KuCoin here doesn't go much further back, but is indeed, from my point of view here, back in May and June last year, this is only really the last point that we had as a reflective point to say is this support or resistance. So I've had no doubt in my mind that we would come back down. But hopefully, because we're still on the anticipation that we're coming from these sort of August, September regions, a good 3.5 months of correctional period here, we're probably at the very bottom areas of where XDC can get to. But like I said, it needs to test these lower regions at least once more, before we can start tailing this up properly. But if we can stabilize along this top line that we drew in previously, could get a new higher low and take that up into a more positive attribute and more an organic move upwards rather than steep climbs like we've seen in many charts today and the last few days. So very interesting areas of interest right now. We're at the bottom regions again, not quite at the full bottom of the macro level or indeed the longer term one. I'd be very surprised to see us drop down to around 4 cents again. But I am loving this current price. Very nice sweet spot here. I would very much welcome 5.5 cents again, and maybe the lower levels of 5 cents. But again, that's probably maybe a bit too far-fetched. I'd like to see us get higher support levels. So this could be where we potentially bottom out. But if the leveraging continues like we've seen on some of the losses charts that I've seen today, 3-time long leverages are failing right now. We could pull this down for a quick turnaround, one of those big dump day kind of things, and switch it back up. Not saying it would probably be as big as this one that we saw on the 21st of January, but still reflected to the point where you could get some really quick, easy wins and lower points of accumulation to take advantage of. So on the weekly, we are 2% up, which is quite interesting. It's not as big as you maybe have anticipated. If you didn't see this before and you just saw this red, you'd probably think it's more than that. So that's really good positivity. We're dragging this 3 month and 1 month down slowly but surely, which is really good to see. This 6 month and the year to date is just not looking great at all. I think XDC, from a retail investor's perspective, if you're using KuCoin and things like this like I am, of course you're going to be wanting to see interesting information. I totally understand that, but you also need to understand what XDC is as a project and who it's actually really catering for. But I think they're going to do a bit of a different job with that raise awareness themselves, because they'll want to get themselves taken seriously in a multitude of channels, right? So I totally understand that from both perspectives. But on the RSIs here, we had the lower regions where we were buying and doing our videos on a week or so ago. Very beautiful price points to accumulate. Had this rise up. Now I'm looking at this MACD, and this is very, again, a repetitive pattern across multiple charts. But for me, it's too steep, too quick. Look at that. Big, wide area, narrowed very quickly, switch over, bang, off it goes like an Elon Musk rocket. And literally, it's now tailing off slightly. This could start having a quick swing back. Not giant price numbers, but it's significant enough to pull us down to lower regions for sure. This is what I always keep an eye out for when we see these runs. Everyone starts getting excited. Oh my God, we're going on a bull run. And I'm like, no, just please calm down. This is too quick, way too quick. So we see up here on the top, if I drag this back down, this massive overselling area. And rightly so, we should finally have seen a green pattern, but it's already tailing off. It's too quick. If we saw like a nice gradual short move, probably similar to this, but in green, if that makes sense, I'd be understanding. But we could maybe see a mirrored pattern of this, potentially, where we have a little drop off, stabilization over a few days, and then pull it back up. Hopefully that's the case. And that's probably where we might see a bit of a bounce off on the MACD down here and pull ourselves up to higher levels. Because at the moment, we're trading around literally just under 6 cents. So it doesn't right now look like we're going to support at the 6 cents. I'm going to drop down. That's where I'm rubbing my hands ready for that 5.5 cent mark. Let's go. Let's try and do it. That's a bit selfish of me, I know, but yeah, I'm trying to get as much as I can at lower prices. So 0.5 cent here, 0.5 cent there. Absolutely lovely. However, looking at the RSIs right now, yes, so looking back at the previous levels, especially on that 90-day and the 28-day, okay, very good, reasonable points. But right now, that 90-day has gone from the pretty much 45, 46 back to 45, so it's very much middle ground. That 28-day is still looking positive, so I'm going to be dollar cost averaging, as I said earlier, this point. I've probably hit the bag right now. I'll be hitting it at 5.5. If it goes lower, I will get more as well, of course, but I will totally be happy if it starts rising again too. Yes, I haven't accumulated as much as I wanted to at these lower levels, but I will, always want to obtain some profitability every now and then, of course. But we do need to start stabilizing XDC and taking it up. Would be very nice to see. So even at this stage, I'm not disappointed to be buying. The bag's gone in. If I get one lower, fantastic. If it starts tailing up, I'll probably still be buying anyway to that reflective point where maybe on the 14-day it gets to a maximum of 45. Then I'll stop, see how it plays out, and make some moves. Maybe just selling some potentially to try and accumulate on any dips. But it is looking stronger, guys. That's what I will say of XDC. I think this year is going to be really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to developments, like I said, of CBDCs and this, that, and the other. And I think XinFin is going to have a gigantic part to play in all of this. I really do. So I'm looking forward to seeing that play out. But let us know in the comments below what you're doing with XDC. Have you been buying these lower points? What did you do in this little tail up that we had? Did you take any profits? I don't need to know exact numbers. Just let us know your moves and what your anticipations for XDC this year. Of course, we had really good price points earlier last year. I think it's like nearly 20 cents, I think. So I think we can get to those levels again this year. I'd love to see 30 or 50 cents. That would be incredible, wouldn't it, from this current position of 5-6 cents. But for me, like I said, it's long term. I'm really much focusing around that 2024, 2025 era, because I do think that's when everything's going to get switched on in the CBDC world. But let us know what you think about that. But guys, we'll catch up with XDC in a few days' time, see how it played out over the weekend. Did we get our lower area as well? But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next XDC video update. Bye-bye.